For decades, the American justice system has been defined by one promise: that no individual, no matter how powerful, stands above the law. Yet every generation faces a moment when that promise is tested. This week, the Department of Justice released a new set of documents connected to one of the most disturbing criminal cases in modern American history, the Jeffrey Epstein case. At first glance, it looked like progress, a step toward transparency, an effort to close a chapter that has haunted public trust for years. But as journalists, legal experts, and ordinary citizens examined the documents more closely, something became clear. Large sections were blocked out, names were removed, connections were obscured. What was released was not clarity. It was confirmation that the full story remains out of reach. Tonight, we examine not only what the Department of Justice chose to reveal, but what it continues to withhold, and why that decision still matters to the future of American justice. The Jeffrey Epstein case did not remain in the public consciousness because of its legal complexity. It stayed because it touched a nerve deep within American society. Epstein was not a street-level criminal. He was a financier with extraordinary access to wealth, influence, and elite social circles. His world included private jets, exclusive estates, international connections. When allegations against him became public, they described not just criminal behavior, but a system that allowed that behavior to continue for years. For many Americans, the case symbolized a long-standing fear that extreme wealth creates a protective shield, a shield strong enough to delay investigations, strong enough to soften consequences, strong enough to obscure accountability. And when Epstein died while in federal custody, that fear intensified. Instead of resolution, the nation was left with silence. The Department of Justice framed the recent release as part of an ongoing commitment to transparency. The documents included references to prior investigative material, summaries of interactions, administrative records connected to Epstein's legal history. On the surface, the release appeared procedural, but upon closer review, entire passages were visibly redacted. Black bars covered names, locations, and contextual explanations. From a legal standpoint, redactions are not unusual, but from a public standpoint, especially in a case defined by secrecy, they carry a different weight. Because transparency, when incomplete, often raises more questions than silence ever did. In the United States, public trust in institutions is not automatic. It is earned through visibility, accountability, and consistency. When information is withheld in routine cases, the reaction is limited. When information is withheld in a case involving systemic abuse, institutional failure, elite protection, the reaction becomes visceral. Redactions do not merely hide text, they invite interpretation. They allow doubt to fill the empty space. And in this case, doubt has accumulated for years. The response in Washington was immediate and cautious. Lawmakers acknowledged the release, but questioned its scope. Several members of Congress noted that transparency must be meaningful. Oversight cannot function without full information. Public confidence depends on visible accountability. The conversation shifted quickly from documents to oversight, because in America, when trust erodes, institutions respond not with reassurance, but with investigation. The Epstein files are no longer only a legal matter, they are now part of a political accountability process.
The emotional response to the Epstein case cannot be separated from American history. From financial collapses to intelligence failures, moments of withheld truth have shaped public skepticism. In this case, the reaction is amplified because the victims were vulnerable and the accused occupied elite spaces. For many Americans, this is not about ideology, it is about fairness. the belief that rules must apply equally or they apply to no one at all. The Department of Justice maintains that redactions are necessary. Their stated reasons include protection of ongoing investigative threads, safeguarding privacy rights, compliance with federal disclosure laws. Legally, these arguments are sound, but legality does not always translate to legitimacy. In cases involving institutional trust, perception often matters as much as statute, and perception in this moment remains fragile. History suggests that partial disclosures rarely end a story, they extend it. When documents are released with heavy redactions, several outcomes often follow. Media pressure increases, congressional inquiries expand, and additional disclosures emerge over time. The Epstein case fits this pattern precisely. Each release reopens the conversation rather than closing it.
This story is not just about Epstein. It is about institutional credibility. It raises questions about how elite crimes are investigated, how transparency is managed, how justice is perceived. For a system built on public confidence, these questions matter deeply. Unanswered questions do not fade quietly. They linger. They resurface in election cycles. They influence public attitudes. They shape generational skepticism. The Epstein files are now part of that legacy. Transparency is not measured by what is released. It is measured by what is understood. Until the American public can clearly see how justice was pursued and whether it was applied equally, the Epstein case will remain unfinished, not because of rumor, but because of absence.